And here we are, the third part of our new style of unboxing series, as we get into everybody's favorite part, the piece-by-piece review of the figures in the set. Worth noting, of course, as a little, for those of you who are new, because we're going to have some new Star Trek fans jumping into the gates here, I do want to let you guys know, I don't necessarily rate a figure as useless. It is either competitive or casual, or both. And this is going to be out of the brick that we got from Wizkids. Thank you very much over at Wizkids. Along with some of our own stuff that we've got from our personal purchases to kind of bulk up and give you significantly more information from the set. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff we already had. There's going to be a couple new figures that you didn't catch in our unboxing video, which will just add to the knowledge base. But without further ado, let's dig in deep on Star Trek, the 08 Team Original Series. So without further ado, let's start with figure 001, the Romulan Centurion. It's got Romulan spy keywords and a trait, forgive me, my old friend. When Romulan Centurion's KO'd, you may place a hindering marker in his square. He's got the Romulan Empire team ability, which is stealth, and you've got sidestep, perplex, and exploit weakness. Sidestep across the whole dial, perplex on the starting click, and then exploit weakness on the later two. This is going to be your sealed 25-point source of Perplex. There's better sources of Perplex in competitive play, but stealth, basically traded stealth Perplexer, not such a bad thing. May see some play in the more limited formats. Great and sealed. Good friend to your Romulan or spy teams because there's going to be a lot of stealthiness going on there, and he creates the hindering terrain you'll need. All right, next up. Sorry, I keep two cards of these handy often. The Klingon Beck. Klingon warrior keywords, Klingon Empire team ability. When this character hits an opposing character with an attack roll of 10 to 12, after resolutions, remove an action token from this character. And then a mixture of sidestep and willpower and close combat expert. 25 points. It's a shrug piece. A shrug as in, you're not going to be seeing this in regular competitive play. You're going to see it more in your sealed or casual play. Nice little addition to the Klingon teams. All right, next up. Whoops, bumping the camera there. The Starfleet security officer's got the Starfleet keyword, red shirt trait. When an adjacent friendly character that's 100 points or less, or has the Starfleet keyword would be KO'd, you may instead KO Starfleet's security officer. If you do, turn the friendly character to his last non-KO click. United Federation is a planet. Team ability gives a +1 movement when taking a hard action move action. It's got incapacitate, enhancement, and empower. Starts with enhancement, turns to empower later. This is a nice little support piece that in more limited games is going to frustrate people because he just keeps things alive that should be dying. And I can imagine a character with a stop click is already frustrating to get to that stop click. Then you get it off that stop click. Then you pop this guy, and now you're just really annoyed. So, could see some play. Definitely going to see some sealed play. Good casual play, but there is some competitive potential in it. All right, next up, the Lokai. I hope I'm saying that right. I apologize. I'm a next generation guy, but we'll work on that. Trait, it doesn't make any sense. Probability control, but only to reroll 1d6, and only if the d6 is a 1. Then it's got stealth, and then some regeneration. It's stealth on the first click, regeneration on the other 3 if it's 4-click dial on 25 points. That probability control will get you out in a nutshell, but this guy isn't going to be making too many waves. But getting you out of a critical miss, that's a something, right? All right, next up. Figure number 5, Telosian, cosmic keyword, much like the Lokai, which I forgot to mention earlier. I apologize. Special attack power, they had us seeing just what we wanted to see. Incapacitate and smoke cloud, and then there's some stealth and willpower. 4-click dial has willpower on all of its clicks, a special power on all 4 clicks, and 2 have stealth. Basically, this is going to be a slowdown piece with 8 range with incapacitate along with that smoke cloud. There's a lot of potential in this guy if you need some mobile hindering terrain or whatnot. But not going to be making a splash in competitive play. Don't worry about that though. Very fun addition to your Star Trek themed games or your cosmic themed teams in general. All right, next up, Lieutenant Kyle. 25 points, Starfleet keyword, sidestep, telekinesis, and the United Federation's planet. This is going to see competitive play for the Soul Pact that is sidestep on a 25-point character with telekinesis that's consistently got his telekinesis for the first 3 of 4 clicks. So yeah, this is going to be a guy we're going to see for sure in some competitive teams. Probably one of the standouts at the lower end of the rarity spectrum. All right, next up, Ensign Chekhov, Starfleet keyword, Federation team ability, and what you see is what you get. 45-point dial that starts with some running shot and probability control, turns into some charge with lower damages. It does have precision strike off the top too. Might make your Starfleet teams. Probably not going to be super competitive. Going to be great in sealed, and it's going to be a linchpin prob source for your Starfleet teams when you're playing in your casual games. All right, next up, the Klingon Lieutenant. Klingon and Warrior keyword, Klingon team ability, and a trait. Today is a good day to die. Friendly characters that are adjacent or have the Klingon keyword can use Empower. And this is a Charging Blades Claws character for 45 points. I always love a character that's 45 points that can possibly do 6 damage. It's also got a little bit of range, but the damage on the range, not so great. Again, this is going to see a lot of casual Star Trek play. Probably not going to be breaking the bank on competitive play. All right. Oh, but going to be great sealed fodder for sure. I mean, for the most part, you play between 7 and 8 characters on your sealed teams as it is in the set. So, all right. Next, we got Nurse Chapel, Starfleet and Scientist keyword, special damage power. I am a nurse first, Dr. McCoy. Support, when Nurse Chapel uses it, if her target has a Starfleet keyword, increase the result on the die roll to heal by 1. United Federation is a planet keyword. 15-point healer. We have our replacement for Night Nurse. If you don't have those 5 points, you also have Sidestep to go with it, so you get a little bit of mobility out of the character you're sitting back and healing with. And if you happen to be playing a Starfleet base team or a character you're trying to heal a character with Starfleet, you're getting a little bit of extra die roll on that, which is important with the way support works. You get that negative, you need that extra add-on to go a little further. All right, next up, the Romulan Lieutenant, Romulan and Spy keywords. We have him, move toward him, trait. Friendly characters that are adjacent or have the Romulan keyword can use ignore hindering for movement. He's got running shot, energy explosion, and 17 defensive willpower with 6 range, 40 points. The stealth from the Romulan team ability. Better than most, not great. Competitive, no. Casual, yes. Linchpin to your Romulan teams. And going to be pretty neato and sealed. All right, next up, the Tellarite, politician keyword. Tellarites do not argue for reasons, they simply argue. Incapacitate, when Tellarite uses it as close, target all adjacent opposing characters. He's got sidestep, toughness, and that special thing across his entire dial. This is going to be a hilarious figure in sealed. If you can get this guy to go, he will go and be obnoxious if you're playing against bubbled up teams. But it's a very specific situation. Ultimately, Tellarite is cool. Not going to win competitive play very soon, but I want to see the look on my opponent's face when I get him right in there and start arguing with his entire team. All right, next up, the Tribbles. This is it, guys. This is the piece we've all wanted. They've got the animal keyword. 50% of their metabolism is geared for reproduction. Free, if another friendly character has not activated this effect this turn, generate a Tribbles. Tribbles have no teeth. Opposing characters do not stop movement when becoming adjacent to Tribbles and automatically break away from Tribbles. I want these Tribbles off my ship. Unique modifier. Characters not named Tribble modify their speed -1 for each Tribbles adjacent to them. Attack -1 for each 2 Tribbles adjacent to them. If they have the Klingon keyword, they also modify their defense by -1 for each Tribble adjacent to them. They only have the 1 click. They are 5 points, but these guys are going to see some competitive play for a number of reasons. One of which is the fact that for a 5-point tax, you can add an ID card without adding too many bodies to your team. As well, if you're using a round table team, you have now these 5-point targets that you can keep reproducing more and more of for your opponents to want to have to hit. And even if they don't hit them, you're gonna start flooding the board with the Tribbles, and they could be just generally obnoxious. But for the most part, bumping up your ID card count goes a long way. All right, next up, the Andorian warrior keyword. Born in a harsh climate and trained for war as a special damage power. Close combat expert, ranged combat expert. It's got a 6 range, it's got charge, and he's got that special power on his first 2 clicks, which then turns into close combat expert. 35 points. Pretty cool. Again, not going to be breaking the world in competitive play. Pretty neato in sealed play with that 6 range going for him. The fact that he's an expert in range or close goes a long way. But casual games, your warrior teams will love him. Warriors, come out and play. All right, next up, the Romulan Commander, Romulan and Spy keywords. And he's got a trait, just one more duty to perform. If a friendly character is adjacent or has a Romulan keyword is KO'd, after resolutions, you may deal 1 damage to all other characters adjacent to that character's square. He's got stealth, and he's got a pretty reasonable dial for 70 points. I am going to love pulling this guy in sealed for sure. At an uncommon is very likely. Not going to be splashing competitive play. Going to make a fun addition, though, to your Romulan teams and punish your opponents for killing things. Yeah. All right, next up, figure number 15, the Korax. Klingon warrior keywords. I meant to say that the Enterprise should be hauled away as garbage. Power action. Choose an adjacent opposing character until your next turn. That character can't target characters not named Korax with an attack. Then he's got the Klingon Empire team ability. A pretty decent close combat dial. Again, going to be great for those Klingon teams, but not really going to be making splashes for competitive play. But you know what? One thing I'm noticing is Star Trek games, just based on what I'm seeing so far in the set, they're going to be so fun. All right. Next up, Mr. Scott. Starfleet keyword. Use figure number 16. Captain, I'm going to need more time. Free. Choose an object in Mr. Scott's square or an adjacent square. Remove it from the game and give him a salvage parts token. His other trait is Perplex. Free. Remove any number of salvage parts tokens. Mr. Scott can use Perplex as an additional number of times this turn for each salvage part token removed. And he comes in at 50 points. So he's got traded Perplex on a 5-click dial for 50 points with the Federation team ability, allows him to move pretty fast, 5 range, and the fact is you can possibly get Perplex multiple times in a turn. We all know how that works when it's even boosted. Yeah, I'd say Mr. Scott could see some play. There's potential for this guy in competitive for really big shots when you really need to take a big one. So Mr. Scott is a hard maybe. Definitely going to be a linchpin to your Starfleet teams. All right, next up, Bell, number 17, Cosmic and Police keyword. But it's all they have left. Probability control, but only to reroll 1d6 and only if the d6 is a 6. And then he's got Steal Energy and Outwit. Outwit on the first click, Steal Energy on everything that isn't the first click. I'm looking at it and I'm seeing this guy is 25, Lokai is 25, so using them in conjunction with each other, you get defensive and offensive probs out of the two guys, but you're spending 50 points in 2 ways. It's not really shining to me, but there's some fun to be had, and they could come in a pinch in sealed for sure. All right. The Keeper, Cosmic and Ruler keywords, ignores characters for line of fire. Special defense power is Barrier and Willpower. He's got some Psychic Blast and Sidestep. Okay, so this is the better version of the Telosian. That long range barrier again is woof. That's a very long range barrier. 8 range with barrier across the entire dial. He's also got Psychic Blast, so he can bring it a little. This could be a good contender as a replacement for your Al Jordans not your Al Jordans, your Alan Scotts in competitive play, your 35-point Super Rare Green Lanterns come through in a pinch to replace those, or if you haven't got those. All right, next up, Lieutenant Sulu. Starfleet Martial Arts keywords. It's a very what you see is what you get dial, which goes from range to close combat with super senses, 50 points. He's a pretty okay character. Going to be great in competitive. Not going to be shining in competitive, but is going to be fun in your tabletop casual games as part of your Starfleet teams, because he's going to be making everybody next to him great, propping people up on his shoulders. All right, next up, Dr. McCoy. To hell with your logic, Mr. Spock. Sometimes... Oh, sorry, he's got Starfleet and Scientist keywords. Sometimes a man just has to follow his gut and take a chance. Free. Choose a friendly character within 4 squares and line of fire. The next attack, roll that character... makes this turn, can't be rerolled, and on a result of 2 to 9, the attack misses. A result of 2 is still a critical miss. On a 10 to 12, the attack is a critical hit. And then he's got special support. When Dr. McCoy uses it, his attack value becomes 11, and he does not take pushing damage for it. So, and he's got that across the dial. He could be played at 45 points with a lot of movement and some super senses, or at 25 points with some sidestep and his special move. This trait here, guys, you're really only ever going to use this if you need a 10 to 12 to hit. I'm just going to stress that right now. Do not plan on that unless you actually need really high numbers to hit. That way, when you do hit, you critically hit so that you're not being frustrated by super senses flipping you off. So it could go either way. Ultimately, he's just a great healer. 25 points that gets you an 11 attack healer with sidestep is good. The phasing version is okay as well, but I'd aim more towards the 25 point version. Could see some competitive play. There's some strategies I've been looking at that could use some support in the background. Support the power, not support the character type. All right, next up, Klingon Captain. Klingon and Warrior keywords. 4,000 throats may be cut in one night by a running man. Once per attack for all characters with this trait, if a friendly character is adjacent or has a Klingon keyword hits with an attack roll, roll a d6. On a 4 to 6, after resolutions, remove an action token from that character. And if that character happens to hit with a 10 to 12, and there happen to be Klingon, he's a just okay kind of guy. He's got hypersonic, but a very short movement for his hypersonic. Gonna be great for Klingon fun games, not necessarily breaking the world in the competitive realm. All right. Yeoman Rand, Starfleet keyword, special attack power. Can I help you, Captain? Power, remove an action token from an adjacent friendly character of 50 points or less. If that character has a Starfleet keyword, it may be a character of 100 points or less instead. If you're playing a small point team, she's not doing much for it anyway. You could be getting more uses in a row out of smaller characters. There's a team with her that's waiting for her to show up, and it's looking pretty cool. Also, she could work well with the title Kirk, which we're going to be seeing a little later on in the set, so she could see some action. It's going to take a team that effectively uses her ability, but I'm not counting her out in the least. All right, next up, figure number 23, the Romulan Legionnaire. Romulan spy keywords. Halt! Don't move is his trait. Once per attack for all characters with this trait. When a friendly character that's adjacent or has a Romulan keyword hits with an attack, roll d6. After resolutions, give the hit target an action on a action token on a 4 to 6. Again, much like a lot of things we've already said, going to be great as part of the Romulan themed team for your casual games. Not breaking the world. Going to be super effective in sealed play. All right. Next up, the Orion female. Assassin keyword. They say no human male can resist them. Trait. This is the first trait. It's mind control. When a friendly character named Orion female uses mind control, modify the target's defense -1 for each token named seduction on their card. And then, of course, to get seduction tokens, secret dreams of a board ship's captain. Free. Give an opposing character within 4 squares in line of fire a seduction token. She's got sidestep, 4-click dial with 30 points. Effective mind controller. Not going to be seeing competitive play because of the pacing she'll be using for that. But sealed play, she's going to be a nightmare. And casual Trek play, she's going to be a ton of fun. All right, next up, Lieutenant Leslie. Reporting back for duty, Captain. 1 is his trait. He's got a Starfleet keyword. Once per game, when Lieutenant Leslie would be KO'd, instead, place him on click number 1 in a square adjacent to another friendly character with a Starfleet keyword. And then he's got sidestep and energy explosion on a 3-click dial for 30 points. You got to kill him twice. Not bad. I mean, cool. Yeah, there's something there. It's not at face value. There's a character who's going to be able to use him somewhere somehow and use that ability very effectively. All right. The first of 3 title characters in the set, 2 that we're going to be covering on this episode. Captain Kirk, Starfleet and Soldier keywords. The title character, so look at that dial. Look at it. Look at how big that dial is. He's indomitable, 6 range with some running shot, which turns into some charts later on. And he runs the gamut between leadership, outwit, perplex, and then probability control towards the late dial. All right. So we got to know, how does this title character work? Well, here, at the end of your turn, if this title character is activated plot ability, but then make an attack, deal it 1 unavoidable damage. Don't not attack, but, you know, there's enough. We've already seen 2 doctors in this set that can heal him up. I think he'll be fine. His +1, he starts with 0 plot points, +1, free until your next turn. When a friendly character is missed by an attack, after resolutions, remove an action token from that character. Then he's got the transporter, which is going to be on all of them, but it's going to be specific to the keywords based on the characters. So here, it's free. Choose a character on your sideline with the Starfleet keyword and a starting line for that character. You may remove 1 plot point plus 1 plot point per 10 points of that character's cost to place that character on the chosen starting line in an unoccupied square within 6 squares of line of fire. A force may only have one character placed by this effect on the map at a time. Example, you would remove 5 plot points for a 40 to 49 point character. If you've seen a lot of the point values that we've gone over in this, it is not hard to effectively use that transportability to get some really useful characters out. You can get a prob control out of that. You can get a defender of dead people. You can get a character who comes out and takes action tokens off of characters. You could get healing in 2 different manners. Overall, I think Kirk's got a lot of potential, and it needs to be researched and worked on and tested. And just he's going to be so good in your casual games, and he's going to be just on the cusp of being amazing, or on being good in competitive play. All right, next up, Mr. Spock. Starfleet Vulcan scientist keywords. It is the most logical course of action. The probability of success being approximately 83.33%. Free. Choose a friendly character within 4 squares in line of fire. The next attack that character makes this turn can't be rerolled, and on a result roll of 2 to 4, the attack is a critical miss. On a 5 to 12, the result of the attack roll is 7. He's got a special attack power. When Mr. Spock makes a close attack, after resolutions, give the hit target an action token. And he's got the Vulcan neck pinch when he wants to be in close combat. In the early part of his dial, he starts with some enhancement and precision strike. I like the idea of when you know you need a 7, just making it, like taking those 2 options that aren't a 7 out of the picture could go a long way for sure. So yeah, Mr. Spock, there's potential here. It's not unbridled potential. Gonna make for some good casual fun for sure. Gonna be great in sealed. Not quite there in competitive. All right, next up. Lieutenant Uhura, Starfleet keyword, communications officer trait. At the beginning of the game, you may choose a copyable team ability that an opposing character can use. As long as Lieutenant Uhura is on the map, adjacent friendly characters and friendly characters with the Starfleet keyword can use that team ability. She's got special damage power, monitoring all channels, Captain. Perplex. When Lieutenant Uhura uses it, she has a range value of 10 and can use ignores hindering, blocking, and elevation. So she only doesn't ignore characters with that. She's got that for her first 3 clicks, which eventually becomes normal perplex. But for the most part, I wouldn't expect her to be in the midst of it with her sidestep to get her there. 40 points, this is going to see competitive play. This is a long-range perplexer that could really make use of some really dense terrained maps. So I'd say, yeah. All right, next up, the Romulan Subcommander, Romulan Spy keywords. You are the ones who violated our territory, Captain. Once per attack for all characters with this trait. When a friendly character that's adjacent or has a Romulan keyword is KO'd by an attack, roll a 6. Deal on a 4 to 6. Deal the attacker 1 penetrating damage, and probability control running shot off the top. 50 points. Of course, you get the stealth coming from this team ability. Long and short of it, not bad, not great. Like casual and sealed for sure. All right. Getting there, guys, getting there. All right, figure number 31, the M113 creature, animal, monster keywords. First rate, Captain's Log. The Enterprise has been invaded by a creature capable of assuming any form, which gives him traded shape change, and with the capacity to paralyze and draw the life from any one of us. Whenever an adjacent opposing character fails a breakaway roll, after resolutions, deal that character 1 damage and heal the M113 creature 1 click. And then it's got just a long dial with steel energy across it. He's got some shape change traded, super senses across the dial. This is going to be a character who's going to be really annoying and sealed. And I wanted to see how he works with some of the stuff from the Undead set. So I'm not counting him out yet because that monster keyword's looking good. All right. Oof. Next up, the Magado. Animal monster keyword. One has taken the Magado bite. He dies. When Magado makes a close attack and hits, after resolutions, give the hit target an action token. When Magado hits a character with 2 action tokens, damage dealt is penetrating. Not terrible damage values. He's got that across his entire dial. 60 or 40 points. Indomitable. Again, not going to be competitive. Going to be really cool casual figure for sure. Monster keyword could add some potential with the undead stuff. Take some research on that one. All right. Next up, the Taurian. Brute keyword, and then it's a giant with close combat stuff. It's generally just a strong close combat character. Once again, not breaking the world in the sealed, or not breaking the world in competitive. He's going to be real tough in the sealed if you compare him to what the rest of the set kind of looks like. He's going to be super strong, probably a must play in the sealed for this. And yeah, just generally neato character that's not going to be breaking the competitive world. All right, next up, Koloth. Klingon, politician, and warrior keywords. Let me assure you, our intentions are peaceful. This is a special damage power, perplex, and it's a unique modifier. When Koloth uses it, he may instead modify defense by +1 on himself and all friendly characters that are adjacent or have the Klingon keyword. So it could be a really good, strong defensive perplex on Klingon teams. So he's going to be a linchpin to your Klingons, who so far aren't looking super competitive, but there's a lot of potential in them in the casual play format. So take a look to them. All right, next up, Mirror Universe, Mr. Spock. Mirror Universe, Vulcan, and Scientist keywords. Agony Booth is his trait. Barrier. When Mr. Spock uses it, after resolutions, if opposing characters adjacent to 4 of his barrier markers, roll a d6 and deal that character penetrating damage equal to half of the result. That is really strong on a 100-point dial with some mastermind. If you can pick the right targets, he's going to be great. He's got the Mirror Universe team ability, which is basically the Mystics team ability. Yeah, 18 defense with mastermind. He's already hard to hit. You can use that barrier to really punish some characters, especially if you can pull them into an indoor map. And if you have some good mastermind fodder, mastermind some damage to protect him. I like him. There's potential. Just got to work around that 100-point value. All right, next up, Mirror Universe Uhura. Mirror Universe, Starfleet, Assassin, and Spy keywords. Assassinations of superiors is a common means of advancing in rank. Free, choose an adjacent opposing character of 100 points or less. That character can't use defense powers until the beginning of your next turn. She's got the Mirror Universe team ability, and then she's got a lot of close combat action going on. Just a really strong close combat character who's along the lines of your Electra type characters. She's got the special team ability to go she's got the Mirror Universe team ability to deal damage if she is dealt damage. Yeah, I like her. Not going to be breaking competitive. Going to be really strong on your Mirror Universe or sneaking into your Starfleet teams. All right, the second title character we're covering today, Kor. Klingon politician, soldier, and warrior keywords. As always, a title character with a long dial with Indomitable, 100 points. His title abilities. I forgot to talk about the negative on Captain Kirk. Whoops. So he's got, of course, the 2 penalties. 1 if he takes damage, and then if he's KO'd during your next turn, your action total becomes 1. You can take 1 action on your turn, but his +1 is your action total is +2, and he's got the transporter ability for Klingons as well. This is going to be the guy you use. Okay, here's what's going to happen. All these Klingons I said were just okay or not great or going to be non-competitive play. All of a sudden, a team with a core is going to make them usable on the sideline. And I think that's something I probably should have looked at and alluded to earlier before I started talking about a lot of the guys. The titled characters in this set make the lower point version of their characters potentially more useful. Doesn't mean they necessarily automatically become great, but they add more potential to those characters. So core on your team adds a sideline of Klingons that are going to help you out in the long run. So now, and the other thing too is he's a very, 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 very close combat base, but he does start with some perplex as well. His competitive potential is questionable compared to Kirk. Kirk's a little bit more flexible in that sense, but I'm gonna put a hard maybe on him. He's definitely the linchpin of your Klingon teams in casual play. All right, next up, Ruck. Robot, ignores hindering for movement. Super strength is his trait, and he's got sidestep and stealth on a special movement power, which he has. Oops, sorry, Ruck. On his first 2 clicks. Man, this just looks cool. Look at him carrying Kirk around like he's nothing. Yeah, he's just a bruiser. Expect sealed play and expect him to be hard to deal with in sealed play because of that invulnerable. There's not a lot of things with damage reducers in the set. There's also not as much psychic blast or exploit weakness that's really gonna hit him or make him worried. So yeah, Ruck is sealed, strong, casual, cool, generally okay character. Not gonna see competitive too frequently. All right, next up, Gorn. Barehanded against the Gorn. I have no chance. This is a special defense power. Toughness. Beginning your turn, heal Gorn 1 click. Protected, outwit. And he's got that on every click except for his first 4. He's 100 points. It's a deep dial. I feel like I'm going to be putting this guy next to, I don't know, some kind of guy who's going to mastermind him, like the Joker likes duo, or something to that effect. There's a lot of potential here to be exploited. And I mean, the fact is, if you're using one of those characters, your opponent gets close to him. I'm going to assume he's healed some and isn't too far down the dial. So that super strength could keep your character who's masterminding to him fairly safe. All right, next up. Oops. I'm all confused. We're almost there. Last 2 characters. Shauna. Martial artist warrior keyword. I am your drill thrall. I will train you well. At the beginning of the game, choose another friendly character to be Shauna's drilling partner. When Shauna's drilling partner is adjacent and makes an attack, if her drilling partner hits with the attack after resolutions, give it a training token. The drilling partner has free. Remove a training token to modify combat value, except damage by +1 until your next turn. And it's a pretty good 25-point dial, to say the least. For the most part, the goal is to use this effect on her, but she's got a 25-point dial that can help keep her going. Martial artist and warrior keywords, so she could work with a fair number of characters out there. I mean, don't base it on the theme outright. She could just be there to make another character strong. All right, and finally, our chase. Good old axe handle, Captain Kirk. Starfleet soldier keywords. Uniform in tatters is his trait. Sideline active. Friendly characters named Captain Kirk have free. Once per game, replace his character with figure number 49, Captain Kirk. At the end of your turn, replace that Captain Kirk with this character. So for a turn, you can get a Captain Kirk to double punch somebody. Once per game, replace this character. At the end of the turn, replace that Captain Kirk with this character. Yeah. Then he's got two-fisted punch, close combat expert. If Kirk has not moved this turn, he may use close combat expert as free. He comes in at 50 points with a fairly sizable 6-click dial for 50 points. So remember that title character I was showing you earlier? Well, this guy's got the Starfleet character team ability. Neither of them is in any way, shape, or form excluded from being on the same team as each other. So I am picturing not calling this guy in with the trait, but trying to get Kirk to get 6 plot points to bring out this Kirk, come out, make a free action close combat expert attack, then another free action close combat expert, because being placed by being brought in on the sideline doesn't count as being placed or moved in any way, shape, or form.
Which means not only are you able to take advantage of this, the free close combat expert action that he's got there, but you're also going to get a little more longevity out of your chase because he doesn't have that stipulation of having to go away at the end of the turn if you call him in with the title character instead of using his sideline active trait.
Okay, guys, so there's a couple standout pieces, and there's also some pieces that we didn't get that do stand out. I want to cover very briefly, like Trelane, who's got an ability very similar to what we've already seen in Mr. Mix's Pit, like a little bit more metered, but he's also less points and a little harder to kill because he's got a soft click. So look to Trelane as an interesting choice out there. But it looks like a lot of the characters that I was talking about today, a lot of the times it sounded like I was getting down on them, and then we started getting to the title characters, which make a lot of the characters a little bit more viable, because sometimes the initial point investment on a character makes it a little bit less likely to see play. But with these title characters, and the fact that they have that transporter ability, and they're able to bring these characters into the game, makes those characters that they could bring in a little bit more viable in the game. But from there, it's just a matter of what the plot point abilities do. The Klingon one is really strong with the ability to add 2 action total point or actions to your pool. Kirk's, its full effectiveness is based on whether or not your opponent can hit you, so that's kind of a iffy thing. I feel like Kirk could sit back next to Dr. McCoy and start to build up title points in order to get really effective turns off. But this is a Star Trek set. It's a great introduction for new players who are interested in the game, who are Star Trek fans. This is a good way to bring them in, because there's a lot of low point characters that are singularly focused, so it doesn't overwhelm new players with, oh my gosh, it's got so many powers, look at all the special powers, what is it doing, it does this, it does this, it does that. You're not doing that to players. You're just giving them a lot of single-use characters so that they understand their roles. And that goes a long way towards introducing our newer players to the game. As well, there's some characters towards the higher end, like the M113 creature or the Gorn, that do allow you to teach a player and not let them get completely punished for making a little bit of a placement or movement error in judgment. So, overall, cool set. Going to be a lot of fun trying out some of this stuff. I know I've got a game coming around in the holidays at some point with one of my friends, and I'm going to try to make use of these. One of the title characters, that's for sure. And yeah, so on that note, I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank Wizkids for providing us with some of the product that we were able to highlight in this episode. Actually, most of the product that we were able to highlight in this episode. And I want to thank you guys for watching. So see you guys around on the channel for the next show.